Welcome, everybody, to the podcast Heal Without Harm. This is the first episode, and I wanted to start off with a bang. So I brought on my boy, Allen Wasinger, and I wanted to give him a little bit of an intro and then let him fill in some gaps. And so he is the co-owner of Compelled Fitness, which is absolutely the biggest CrossFit gym here in Kansas, and in my argument would be the best. But we'll talk about what we all define as best. And then some other names that I wanted to throw at him. So he always lives stage ready for a bodybuilding competition, whether he knows it or not. All he needs is a tan and some oil. He is 2022 Man of the Year with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. He practices what he preaches. All the workouts that he writes for us, he does himself, which I think speaks very true to his programming. He's also the Legends Masters competitor, and then a big believer in physical therapy, ultimately, and another thing that we'll kind of talk into. So, Allen, fill in some gaps for us there.
Well, first of all, Clayton, thank you for having me on.
You're very welcome.
It's weird to sit back and list accolades because, I mean, I feel like that's not who I am. It's great. I have extreme gratitude for those things I accomplished. Well, not always a good support system, but I'm eager to be here, ready to try to answer some of these questions you have and hopefully educate or inspire the listeners.
Yeah, for sure. And so one of the next questions that I wanted to kind of toss out there was how we met. And we talked about that a little bit kind of on/off camera and everything. But in a short bit, how did we meet? And then a weird follow-up is going to be like, why do you do what you do from there?
So the first question is, how did we meet?
Yeah.
So we were discussing this briefly prior because I told Clayton I didn't want to be that guy and be like, I don't remember. Because to be honest, I don't remember, but that doesn't mean anything. I had met Courtney, right? Mm-hmm. Courtney with Natural Wellness first. And then, Clayton kind of came in and he was discussing that he came in to drop off some business cards.
Yeah.
And I was there present. And really the first probably several interactions was just probably passing through. And then the more we did that, the more, some more conversations would come about. But I don't think there was anything specifically that was like, hey, here's Clayton and hey, here's Allen.
Yeah. And I this is my guess as to why it may not stick in memory is as a business owner that deals with people who are trying to get into the fitness world and lose weight and all these things, a lot of people come in with good intentions and then never show up again. So you probably have a lot of like initial intros that people on my end remember, but on your end, maybe not. And I don't think that's to any fault of your own at all, but you come across a lot of people and you've been doing this for many years, 10 plus and stuff. So what I like though is every interaction that I've seen you have with someone for the first time, everybody that I talk to who has met you, whether or not you remember that interaction, they do, and they remember as a positive one.
Good.
So you always show up the same way, and I think that's what's really positive. Something in our clinic when we compliment coworkers and colleagues and stuff, we force each other to just sit back and say thank you, because I know people like yourself either don't like or not. Well, you're probably used to in a way, but you don't like taking compliments because that's just what you do, right? But
yeah.
I do want you to know that ultimately that people always speak highly of you, and so I am kind of curious. Listening to some of your background, I know you come from more of the criminal justice side of things. And so why do you do this? Like, why do you try to change people's life in regards of like the fitness world? Why do you want people to become healthier ultimately?
Yeah. So the way you kind of loaded that question is my degree is in criminal justice. And I spent, close to 10 years in kind of that environment, working at a prison, working with juveniles here in Sedgwick County. Really, if I was to, quickly say how I got there, I went to college because that's just what you're supposed to do, really, after high school. I didn't have any intentions of anything, really. I'm like, okay, just go to college. And then when I was told I needed to pick a degree, I was like, to be honest, I was like, what's the easiest? For me at that time, I'm not throwing, any shade at the program. I absolutely loved it. And once I got into it, I was like, I really like this, graduated. And I'm like, okay, now I'm supposed to do something with this degree. So then I got a job at the Larned State Mental Health Correctional Facility. It's a mouthful. And I really enjoyed it. It was a negative environment, but I always really enjoyed it. And then getting back to, how did I end up in fitness? Well, all during that time in high school and college is I always went to a gym. And I imagine we'll probably get into it as to why, I started that thing. But really it was just, to answer it quickly, I have a lot of energy and I don't know what to do with it. And fitness was a great way of making sure that I could get some of that out. Yeah. At that time, that's how I felt. But then down the road, I realized how much it really affected me or how much I needed it more than just those reasons.
So it sounds like you've benefited a lot from fitness with what you just said there. And from the outside looking in, I would say you've done a great job continuing to stay consistent, and physically you look like you've continued to put in the work. And so what about your journey has led you to want to share that with others or guide others?
Okay.
To their,
see if I
to
can,
their goals.
See if I can narrow this down. So how do I, work this for myself and then relay it to others? Initially, I started working out because I was playing sports. So that's generally what you do. You start to build your body a little bit better to play the sport. And I always remember the first time I worked out, I think it was 14 years old, specifically at a gym. Football coach put me through a workout and I puked. And I remember leaving that day, I'm 14 years old, and I puked, and I was like, I don't know why, but I really like that. Mm-hmm. Not the puking part necessarily, but I like the exertion of really just trying to challenge myself. And then it went from there. And I'm also the type of person that I'm very routine. So when I started working out, I was like, this is part of my routine now. I have to do it. It's no different than, waking up, eating, all those things that we do. And it just kind of escalated from there. It became definitely an obsession. Initially just because of the vanity. Growing up, I've never been, like necessarily overweight or super skinny. I was just tall and slender. And I just kind of wanted to see what I could do with it. So then after high school, I always found a gym. From high school, I moved to, I lived in Hayes while I was at college, found a 24-hour access gym there, did that. After I had moved to Larned, I worked out at the hospital. And then when I moved to Wichita, I started working out at a gym here, and then it escalated to Compelled, which is another story if we get into.
We absolutely will. And so there's so much I would like to touch on there. And if you're okay with that, I want to tell you a short story that I think would be an analogous. It would be an analogy. I don't know the word. It'll be an analogy and so a gentleman I listened to, Alex Formosi, talks about how when he witnessed this girl in a makeup store, I think it was like Sephora, as she was getting the makeup put on her and they were kind of testing stuff out, the sales girl that was trying to sell the makeup did a fantastic job. And she said, honey, you're becoming a woman now. You need to budget this in so you can spend this money every month. And it's like, talk about a great sales pitch, right? But ultimately what she was asking her to do is making it a part of her normal routine, making it part of her normal spending. And I think if you can get someone to take that same thing but over to fitness where, like you said, wow, this is going to be part of my routine because of the benefits that you get from it. I think that's when you've truly got a client kind of converted over to like living a healthier lifestyle. Sure. It's like when that becomes, whether it's part of their financial budget or whether it's part of their like daily time budget of like, it's not, am I going to work out today? It's when am I going to work out today, right?
Absolutely.
It's a small little change in detail, but a massive change in lifestyle.
And absolutely correct. And I know prior, that question that you asked is, how do I get people involved in that? Mm-hmm. So as my journey in fitness, continued initially, and I tell people this, and you can have your own opinion, is I believe that most people get involved in fitness initially for the vanity.
100%.
Who doesn't want to look good when you see TV, magazines, whatever it is, you see people that say, that work out and they look a certain way. You're like, well, I want to get that. So that was my driving force for several years, was to try to look better. And that's the scary part about us as humans is we never truly see ourselves the way others see us.
Yeah.
You can be told you look good from so many people, but it's really hard to feel that. So the first few years, it was kind of vanity. And then luckily for me, I was able to process more internally about what this has really given me. And it's given me clarity. It's given me a way to get rid of some of the stress, the anxiety, and the depression that I've dealt with my whole life. And I always like putting those things in there, and expressing that it's not something that should deter you. And I always express this to people that I do suffer from anxiety and depression. I have my whole life and really never recognized that. And fitness was such a phenomenal way for me to kind of close so many doors that were open all day long in my head. So this was one way for that hour or whatever it was to close that. I didn't understand that initially because I don't think I was mature enough to understand that. And then from that, just having low self-esteem during that point was, I'm like, hey, how do I express this to people? Mm-hmm. Somebody might look at me, especially now, and be like, oh, he has it made. He just naturally was able to do this stuff. When I'm going to be honest, no. Started working out, at 14. I'm 41 now. So there's a long time that I've been working out. Yeah. I've had 27 years to collect data and try to now then express that to others.
Yeah.
And the expression is really just trying to talk to them outside of fitness. Because if you can really get to the root of maybe some of the issues that they're struggling with, then you can, promote fitness as one way to help that. So because I've dealt with just as much as anything, dealt with so many things as anybody else, it's never fair to be like, I've been through more than you, because how you process that is how you process that. But if I can get to know somebody and hear maybe their struggles and their problems and express mine as well and say, hey, this helped me, maybe then it can help them as well.
So I do want to try to tear this apart just a little bit, because there's one thing that I've observed for myself going through having a couple daughters and the challenges of lifestyle shift that brings. And then also just talking to multiple people, where I would agree with you, most people get into fitness for the vanity aspect, whether it's to go from overweight to appropriate weight, or whether it's to go from skinny to bigger in regards of strength, or whether it's to go from the amount of body fat they have to less so that they look prettier. I think that's no different than someone wanting to get into business or start a job so they can go buy a fancy car.
Absolutely.
It's we don't always get into it for the quote perfect reasons, and that's okay, because it gets you in the door, right? It gets you going. So then when you get into it, you're like, wow, there's way more depth to this than I realized. And then you start to see their other benefits. And I guarantee you, if you go through everybody in your 615 class this morning and say, if you've been doing this for more than 6 months, why are you still here? And I would say the majority of people, 80% plus, are going to say for the mental health aspect. But probably no one gets in because they're like, I heard lifting 4 times a week is going to help with my anxiety. We know that's the truth, especially when we're here, right? And to tell a personal story, there was multiple times that I would be so frustrated with whatever challenges that I was having with raising my daughters in the moment, where I'm like, I can't wait to just go squat a shit ton of weight. And I know that would it's a way, like you said, to do something with that energy. And I think especially as we get past high school, where organized sports start to disappear, we're so used to doing something like that, where we leave it all on the field, leave it all on the court, or leave it all in the weight room, that we don't do that anymore. And I think this is my own personal belief, is that's another reason that we may take an upgrade on the anxiety side of things, or an upgrade on the side, the depression side of things, in a bad way, because we no longer have that. And I think that's what the gym in everybody's own way, whether it's Pilates, yoga, weightlifting, running, whatever it is, that's their outlet. And that's what in my own heart, I'm going on a path here, but that's what I love about CrossFit, is every workout is a competition, whether it's with yourself, the person next to you, whatever, but everybody still wants you to win, just like you want that person next to you to win. Is you actually get the competition back. You get the sensation of wow, I literally gave it my all, puking or not, right?
Yeah.
But there's the reason you puked is because you literally gave it your all. And then I think there's so much to be said about that in the mental health / anxiety depression department. And so I'm sure that you have more to say, and I would love to hear what is your thoughts on how much it's helped you, or how it's helped you, whatever you'd like to say on that, mental health.
I mean, it's a big question, and it's a phenomenal question. So right now, because I have so many things going on in my head at all times, is trying to quantify that. So the question, how has it helped me?
Yeah, let's go with that.
Initially, the first thing that comes to my head is just clarity, and in a way to kind of decompress.
Yeah.
And as my life has, changed over the years, and the 20 plus years that I've done fitness has helped me through different parts of those 25 plus years. Initially, let's just say the first few years was kind of vanity, getting my feet wet into fitness, trying out different things. I've tried every type of fitness, really. And then, as I got a little bit older, and what happens is when you get older, most times is you get more responsibilities. And so that would help me juggle all the stresses that came with those responsibilities. And then down the road, I started to see a lot more progress, and kind of was more educated on how to do fitness better. So I was able then to have a new challenge with that, specifically hey, I really like working my legs. I want to start diving into different leg variations. And so I would, just go back to each part of my life presented, a different look on my fitness. So to answer your question in a couple of ways, was one, just clarity. And then as the stressors came about my life, it was a way for me to help with that stress. Yeah. And it still is to this day, and it just looks different.
Yeah. No, I would agree with you in my own ways, because there is times where I would say that the phrase that comes to mind with what you're saying is movement meditation. Have you ever heard that?
Not movement meditation, movement is medicine is,
Yeah.
What gets thrown around.
So when we think of the word meditation, at least most of the people listening, including probably you and me, you think, a monk sitting in a jungle or in some sort of forestry area, legs crossed, hands up in the air, and just quiet and humming or not, right? So just nothing, just all there. And for most people, especially ones like you and me, like that sounds like torture. I may need it, but it sounds like so challenging to sit and not move. And so when you do this movement meditation, it's something to where it's like you can keep your physical body in motion. Sometimes it's as simple as going for a walk, a run, a cycle. Sometimes it's going all in on a CrossFit workout. And for some people, it's doing Pilates and just listening to the coach tell them what to do next. But it's this way to like have your brain and / physical body like completely occupied on whatever that task is. And then the visual that I have is like, if you have this tangled knot inside your brain, aka like whatever you're stressing about or whatever stressors are placed upon you that day, you can start to untangle that. It's like your brain finally gets permission to like actually start like pulling the string apart and trying to figure out like, okay, what do we want to do? And so then you leave the workout and you're like, here's how I'm going to solve that fight with my wife, or here's how I'm going to like approach my boss at work, or here's the conversation I think I need to have with my kid. And that's what I've gained. And that would be me trying to like maybe add a little bit of clarity or unpacking to like the clarity that I've received from weightlifting.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense too. I don't think I've ever heard that phrase with movement meditation, because it makes sense the way my brain is, and I've understood this now, especially as I've gotten older and been able to recognize these signs. I don't do well in silence.
Yeah.
To be able to meditate, which I think is phenomenal, I can't do that. You can't put me in a quiet room because my brain doesn't work that way. But what's really then funny, and once I understood this, it's helpful, is I can do a workout and be at complete peace in my brain. And I can also not only, do that fitness, but also organize my day, think about, other stuff I got to get done. And it provides me, and it sounds weird maybe, but those of us that are like this way would understand, is I can do all those things while I'm doing something else. And it is my form of meditation.
Yeah.
Because if not, if I get stuck in a room and have to think about my day, I lose it. I can't focus. I can't organize it.
Yeah.
So I can go hit a workout, think about it, then after the workout have that moment of just like, and then go tackle what I need to tackle.
For sure. And so moving on, I want to learn a little bit more about you from a coaching perspective.
Yeah.
And so I think let's go with kind of fast forwarding to the end, maybe not the end, but a big checkpoint in a client's life. And so let's say you're talking to someone, or I'm asking you about a generic person where you've worked with this client for, it may be a matter of just weeks, but it may be also a matter of months or years. What would you consider a success with a client? So you work with someone and they get to a point and you can celebrate this achievement. What would you consider that success?
Well, yeah, it's a phenomenal question. So for me specifically, what do I think is success with working with an individual? I think confidence, that they gain confidence to do things on their own. And the reason, if I can backtrack a little bit, is because fitness is so intimidating. And I've told this to so many people, the industry is jaded and I don't like it and I'm a part of it. But the cool part about being a part of it is I can help change it. You go to gyms, guys and girls, they look like they spent 2 hours to get ready to go to the gym. And it's just intimidating. It can be intimidating. So if you're somebody on the outside looking in who already does not have confidence, you're not going to want to go to the zoo with all these animals that you're terrified of. So what I like to do is, bring them in. And I think what helps sometimes is my look, because that's kind of sometimes the look that you see at these gyms that intimidate people. And if I can use my personality to break down those walls and reassure them that they are capable of doing this on their own and just working with them. And usually that progress starts to happen by getting to know them, finding out why they have these insecurities, and then trying to show them how we can work with those. So if I work with somebody for a day or weeks or years and they say, hey, Allen, I don't need you anymore. I feel really comfortable doing this on my own. I'm not disappointed. That is one of the biggest successes that I can have.
Yeah.
Because now I just not only helped myself, really, help them, and then maybe they can spread that message to somebody else who feels the same way.
For sure. And I think business owners that may be listening, maybe like, oh, so once you work yourself out of a job, you call that a success?
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right, but that's just who I am as a person. Of course, I want to continue to run the business and help people, but I don't want to tie them.
Yeah, no,
I want them to fly.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. And in the world of physical therapy, we talk about it's the worst business model because the better we do, the less money we get. Which again, there's the business side of things, and then there's the what's the purpose of me being here? And it's to help that client either live a healthier lifestyle or make pain go away. And
if you do your job well, you'll get referrals.
Exactly. And so sometimes it's a little bit of an ethical dilemma in there. And so moving forward, though, another question that I think builds to that success that you're talking about is, what are some of the most common struggles that you'll see with new clients? Let me rephrase. What's one of the most common struggles that client is likely going through when they first show up at your door?
They're really just unfamiliar about what they want to accomplish. And so what do I mean by that is we talked about, initially the vanity part. You have somebody who maybe was an athlete in high school and then life happens. They get married, they start a family, they have all these other things that has affected what they were used to. So they, maybe gain more weight or lose that edge that they used to have and they enjoyed. And they think they got to do all these different things. And I know we'll probably get into it. They're like, well, I got to start meal prepping. And I got to buy these supplements. I got to find this gym. So when they start doing all those things, it's going to push them back because it's just adding to the stress that they had initially. To answer the question once again, I think they're just not uneducated because that sounds demeaning, just unfamiliar with what they really need to do to get started. And sometimes just sitting down with someone like myself or others, we can help start opening up those doors to figure out what they really wanted and maybe push away all those stressors that they're coming in with.
Yeah. A story that, again, I heard from another podcast that I think relates here is if you're imagining that you're trying to climb a mountain, but there's a ton of mist in the air, like a lot of fog, if you try to map out the perfect plan to get to the top, you may never go anywhere. So if you think I have to meal prep, I have to do these supplements, I have to wake up early, I have to do the cold bath, I have to do all of these things, talk about overwhelm, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think when someone can show up at your door and you say, hey, calm down, here's the next step. Yep. And then when you take that step, now you can see the next step. And it's just one at a time moving up to where you can navigate through that mist or through that fog of overwhelm, just one step at a time. And I think that's where hiring a coach like yourself can really help them navigate that path.
Yeah, and just to further expand on that, kind of how do I know that they're making a big step forward is when they show up. Mm-hmm. Because when they show up at the gym, that isn't the first time they thought about it. They probably thought days, weeks, months, even years about going. So when they walk through that door, I, try to immediately tell them how successful that is because I know that wasn't their first day that they thought about it. So just to reassure them that I know you've been potentially struggling and you made it here today. Yeah. So let's sit, let's shoot the shit, and then we'll get to the fitness.
For sure. Knowing when to celebrate from their perspective is huge. And so I know some of those clients will come in, like you said, sometimes it's vanity. Sometimes it's like, hey, I'm just 20 pounds more than I used to be and I want that back. And sometimes it's maybe chasing PRs. But I know when I've talked to clients as a physical therapist, a lot of the times people may get into it because they've heard it will help their pain. And so if you have someone come in with some of the goals that you just listed, but then they layer in there and they say, Alan, by the way, my shoulder just hurts all the time. What does that change for you, or whatever the body part may be, but what does that change for you as the coach or the trainer, and how do you navigate those waters?
Well, for one, you want to try to hear a little bit more about that potential injury or that pain.
Of course.
And so I spent a long time in this field. Obviously, I don't have the credentials as Clayton, to truly assess that, but I have enough to, steer them away from a few things. So the example was, if they come in with a shoulder, well, I've had experience with that. So I don't try to just use my experience to say, well, this is what I did, you need to do that as well. I'll just offer, some suggestions that help me during that time. And I'll, of course, share stories about working with individuals like you and the success that I had from that, and let them know that just because the shoulder is affected right now, you have the entire rest of your body to work with. And that is probably the thing that frustrates me the most with fitness, is people will be like, well, I tweaked my shoulder, I gotta, we'll get into this, you go and see your physician, they're like, well, you just need a rest. And I'm like, You have the rest of your body. You're telling me your shoulder affects your legs? No, we can do something. And that is when I can get really passionate about, because I've been there. I've had the injuries. I've had the setbacks, but I've never stopped. It wasn't easy, but once you do it the first time, you know, the example was when I had my shoulder surgery a few years ago. That was the first ever really big setback. I didn't stop. I didn't stop because, one, I'm stubborn. And then two, I wanted to be that example for myself and for others, to show them, debunk some of the things that I don't like about the fitness industry or the medical industry, is to say, hey, no, there is no stopping. There's adjusting.
Yeah. And I think if you guys want to go follow Allen, whether it be on Instagram or Facebook, you're going to see video evidence of what he's talking about. One of my favorite videos that he put out was him on a rower. Real quick, think back to like kindergarten through fourth grade, those little scooters, they were like squares with 4 wheels on the bottom, that you weren't really supposed to like run and jump on because you can't ever stop. He put one of those next to the rowing machine when he had his ankle surgery, and he's got one foot on the rower, both hands on the rower, and then his foot is hanging off to the side on that scooter, going forward and back and forward and back. And if you want proof of like, hey, I have 3 other appendages that I can work on, that would be it. And then I also remember him when he had his shoulder surgery, throwing a kettlebell up on the healthy shoulder that wasn't having surgery, and he was doing box step-ups. And I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying, where it's like when you go through that once, you prove to yourself it's not only possible, but now you're like, oh, well, that took 10 steps, and now I could probably do it a little bit more efficiently. And again, like you said, yes, you may not have the credentials to evaluate and assess, but you don't need them. They're not showing up to get their problems pain solved necessarily. It's, hey, I want to live healthier. And now that you've got your own experiences with different injuries, surgeries of different body parts, and you've navigated those waters, now you can help the person you once were, and that's work out.
Yeah, and initially we started, this podcast talking about what has fitness done for me. And too many times as people just associate, their success in the gym, but they don't understand how that translates outside of the gym. So for me, having the shoulder and the ankle, those challenges obviously presented more in the gym, but also outside of the gym. So when I was at home, either in a sling or a scooter, I'm like, well, wait a minute. If I'm doing these things in the gym, and pounding my chest saying, hey, I'm able to still do this stuff, I better not be sitting on my butt at home saying, hey, my wife, Laura, well, can you go do that for me? And she's like, I just saw a video of you doing all this stuff at the gym. No. So it translates outside of that is, yes, those challenges are difficult, but I'm like, no, I can do this. I don't want necessarily people doing things for me when I'm still capable. So another big thing that fitness has helped me with is having more confidence and feeling more empowered to do things because I suffered in the gym or had those challenges. I'm able to live a better life outside of it because I was able to have a place where I was presented those things, use it, figure it out, and then go express it outside.
For sure. And if you want any more of an example of how fitness can help the rest of your lifestyle, I think that would be it, where it's just like you had an obstacle and you learned how to navigate it ultimately. Mm-hmm. And so that's the other thing. I agree with you. There's a lot of stuff that, like lessons that are learned in the gym, that if you're paying attention, they can carry over into daily life, whether it be business, family relationships, friends, kids, whatever it may be.
There hasn't been a place that's given me better life lessons than the gym.
100%.
I'm so thankful for that.
It's so carryoverable. Again, another made-up word. Moving forward, we've talked about injuries a little bit. I would like to touch on this, especially because the podcast is called Heal Without Harm. And through the shoulder injury, the ankle injury, and I'm sure there's many more in your 20-plus years of fitness, I know I'm not the only person that's helped you in regards to that. And so what all have you learned through the process of physical therapy and or like chiropractic style care? And how have like those two professions helped you continue to grow strength, continue to show up all around in the fitness world?
To start, the first thing that pops into my head is I don't know everything. And the reason why I say that is because when you're seeking out help, right, what do? You don't go to that place. You maybe look at reviews or you do some Googling and you just try to find out what you want to find out. So chiropractors, I just thought they were witch doctors, that they just grab you and they pop you. So I never wanted to do it because I did have a bad experience. The first time I went to a chiropractor, he yanked on my leg, my knee popped, and he's like, okay, I got it to pop. And me just being stubborn, I'm like, okay, but that didn't really feel good, but he's the expert. And I left, and my leg did not feel good for a long time. So I was like, not doing that again. And then, when we opened up the gym, we had obviously a lot of chiropractors come in and, want to, promote their business. And I was just like, no, because I just straight up told them, I don't believe in you.
Well, when you have a poor experience like that.
I had a poor experience, but, and as I, started to mature a little bit more, I'm like, wait a minute. Not every business or profession is like that. So I gave a chiropractor a chance, and he did a phenomenal job. And it just kind of was like, wait a minute, I just had a bad experience. So then I started to work with, I met Courtney first, and then obviously you came along. And what I really loved, especially about your practice, was the initial, getting to know you. To me, that speaks volume, especially with a business, is you're not saying, hey, here's the price chart before I start talking to you. You said, hey, why are we here? Okay, well, let's talk a little bit more about that. And it wasn't just like diagnosing me right away, because I don't like that. I think there's just too much to express before you start going into that. Like, you need a backstory, right? And you guys provided the time and the patience to listen to the backstory. So ever since then, I'm like, you know what? There are, just like in any job, right? There's good and there's bad. So we just unfortunately have to navigate through that sometime too. And now I have the utmost respect. Obviously, you and I chat a lot about, issues that come up with not only myself or others, and we kind of play off of that. And then now we're able to help more people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's always good to hear. And I do appreciate you even taking the time to mention that you go look up things about these people, right? Like reviews and stuff like that. Because when I did a lot more on my TikTok, people would say, like, how do I find a good PT? And I would tell them, like, go look into them, like, do your own research. And I didn't mean that rudely, but it's like, go look into it, because you can just look up on Google, like type in physical therapy, and you'll see 100 people. And a lot of the times, sometimes the people with the most reviews, even if they're good, aren't the best, right? They may just do the highest amount of volume. And then you click on there and all you see is a bunch of 75-year-olds learning how to stand up again. When you're a 24-year-old weightlifter, like, you don't really identify with those people. So go to the next one, and see what resonates with you, which is why we built our site personally to look the way it does, because we want to attract a certain type of person. Mm-hmm. Other websites will attract different type of people. And so I appreciate that you laid that out there so that people can look into it themselves and make sure that, like, okay, this guy or this gal gets me. Yeah. Let's go deeper. Well, and I think that's what...
Yeah, it's fair. Sorry, I'm not meaning to interrupt you.
You're good.
But it is fair to say is you're organizing your business for the clientele that you want, right?
Exactly.
If you have, that lobby is all bougie and has got all this stuff in there, you're obviously trying to attract a certain clientele, and that's fine. But it makes me, for what I look for, is somebody who just wants to listen to me first, is because I just feel like that's the only way that you can get to know maybe the root of the issue. And walking into natural wellness, it just feels cozy to me. I'm not intimidated to be in there. And then, how do you select somebody? How do you select, someone like Clayton or someone like myself? Well, for me, it's, you have to feel something. And so for me to say, Clayton's the best or Allen's the best, I don't like doing that, because where's the proof? I haven't met you yet, so how can I say I'm the best? I need you to come in. Let's have a conversation. Hopefully you feel that interaction that we're having, and it makes you feel at ease, and then you want to start working. You may not be the best at what you do, but if you make me feel comfortable, I'm going to go with you. Because at least then I know we're on the same page, and I trust you, and you're not trying to sell me on some BS.
Exactly, yeah. And just some little bits of fun facts. I'm pretty sure the average person who goes to their regular physician gets interrupted within the first 10 seconds of talking. And so ultimately how disrespectful is that, right? Actions speak louder than words. So when they just jump in and cut you off, it's like, cool, I'm not even going to, give
don't do that to me.
Yeah.
That's my red flag.
The second fact is the average physician, again, just primary care physicians, spends less than 3 minutes with each of their patients. 3 minutes. Our intro conversation was longer than that on this podcast. It's so short. And then, so like you said, the first thing that we did, and I've noticed the first thing when I've introduced clients to you as being their potential coach, you stop and you essentially say, hold on, what is your goal here? right? And then you just let them talk, because if you don't know their story, then how in the hell are you going to help them appropriately? And so when you translate that back over to the medical system, and the beef that we have with our current medical system is you get interrupted and people just essentially hear like, I got this tingly, and they're like, sciatica, nerve, go to the nerve doctor. And it's just like, there's so much more to that. And so that's why we built our practice, and that's why many more PTs, chiros, and everything are building practices where it's like, listen, we've got a whole hour for us to help you in whatever way we can. And so anyway, there's enough on me. That's not the point of this, but just letting you guys know like how we're trying with this podcast and everything, trying to make the system better or build a better system. Moving just a little bit further on, I'm kind of curious. Let's go with, what is one of your favorite client stories? What is one of the people that just jump to the top of your brain when you think, wow, like this person really did it. They stuck with it. They changed. They started here. They ended there. What's a story that you love to tell about one of your clients?
I feel bad because there's just been so many, right?
I mean, when you've
and
been
usually
in it for
those
this
success
long.
stories, they've happened in different periods, right? I've now been a coach at Compelled for 11 years, so each day or week presented one of those successes, right? And there's been individuals that have come in and lost 100 pounds, right? That is phenomenal. But the one that sticks out is fairly recent, within the last few years, doing personal training with a lady in her her late 50s. She came to me, and to be honest, in good shape. She just wanted to try something different. So she wanted to start lifting and doing that thing, because she came from a background of a lot of cardio. And I told her, I was like, you need to strength train. I was like, at your age, we need to stop all this pounding the pavement and try to just strengthen ourselves up. And so, like I said, she came in not needing anything, but then down the road, she got cancer, or found out she had cancer, and it took everything away from her. This is a gal who doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, eats, is a vegetarian, vegan, does everything that you're told that you're supposed to do.
Yeah, does everything right.
Does everything right. And this hit her. She lost a lot of weight, of course, lost her hair, lost the ability to stand up on her own. So while she was going through that, we stayed in contact. She's a good friend of mine now. And she just never wanted to give up. And that was really powerful, not only obviously for her, but it was for me. Because, you sit back and you have your own war stories, but this lady basically had everything stripped from her. When she did everything right, she got done with treatment, cleared of cancer, down the road. And what did she do? She picked up right where she left off. And I always express this to this lady. I'm like, you had every reason to not do this, to not get back to your activity level. Because as she was going through that, I still worked with her. She would have her chemo, then we'd have to have a break. And I told her, I'm like, you don't have to do this. You have every excuse in the book. And she's like, I know, but I refuse to stop. And now, which is so powerful with this, she went through all that. Remind you, this lady was active, was healthy, lost so much weight that she was not able to stand up. This lady now is doing more post-cancer than she was able to do before. So you telling me that fitness is not powerful? It's powerful physically, but you better believe it was more powerful mentally, that she just refused to give up. Mm-hmm. And what's so great about my profession is I get to be involved in these stories, and they affect me. I got goosebumps now thinking about it, because, I'll sit back and be like, oh, I have this damn shoulder thing. This lady wasn't able to stand up, and she never stopped. So then now when I get bumps and bruises, I ain't complaining about it. I might complain and shoot the shit with my friends and stuff and say how bad this is. But the reality is, anybody listen to this who might think they got these bumps and bruises, get over it.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
It could be so much worse. And I was able to see how much worse that could be. So that's the one that definitely gets the heart pumping, is one of those big success stories. And all the other ones that may not be as huge as the things that I discussed, those are very successful. Because regardless if you battled cancer and came back, or you battled through an injury or you came back, or you battled depression and used fitness to come back, those all, pretty much are equal in that regards, because it helped that individual.
No, I fully agree. And I know who you're talking about, and it is a powerful story, and it's so cool to see it, where it's like, you talked about, people look at you and think you haven't made, but it's like, honey, this 27 years looks like an overnight success, but you didn't see the first 26 years and 11 months. And when you see this individual now, you may not even ever know that she had cancer because of what she's done.
You would not at all.
Exactly. And I wouldn't be doing my duty as a PT if I didn't say this, but weightlifting decreases all-cause mortality. And that's a fancy way of saying if you weightlift, you are much less likely to die from anything. A car wreck, you're more likely to live than if you didn't weightlift. Cancer, you're more likely to live weightlifting than if you didn't weightlift. And you can go all the way down, heart disease, everything. So she is a prime example. And I love stories like that because I can look at her and say, if you didn't do what you did before being diagnosed with cancer, you may not be here now for two reasons. Like you said, the mental aspect. You may not have had the mental fortitude to not give up. Like you said, she had every reason in the book to give up. And the second reason is her body may not have been strong and resilient enough to fight the cancer. But I mean, we know what chemo does, right? There was a show that I was watching. It was called New Amsterdam. And the main character gets diagnosed with cancer. He's like, so you're saying I need to bang my head against the wall and hope that like I outlive the wall? I mean, that's essentially what chemo is, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, hopefully like cancer taps out before I do. And thankfully she had done enough things right in her life where she was able to get cancer to tap out before her. And then she was able to kind of hold up the finger to it as she walks away, and she's now stronger than she was before. So, I mean, there's countless amount of like lessons that you can take away from that story. So I'm very glad that you shared it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what with fitness, and I'm extremely guilty of this, especially with my age, still relatively young, being 41, is I do feel like I'm still a little bit invincible. Definitely was much more invincible in my 20s. But luckily, during the whole process of my fitness is I was building armor. And now luckily too, going through my setbacks is I was able to, have that shield around my body that it was able to take those hits and not be just fully disassembled.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to look at it.
And I think that's the issue that we have as a society is we're not building that armor. Because maybe, the life's too busy and all that stuff. And that's an expression that I can't stand when people say, I wish I had your time. I'm like, I don't know about you, but the 24 hours is the same for me as it is for you. It's called a priority. And luckily, I've been able to build that shield. And you don't need 25 years to build the shield. I'm just lucky that my shield has had 25 years to become a little bit more hardened. But you can start building that shield day one. So let's do it.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you.
Because you never know when you need it.
For sure. I mean, if you think about it, like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, they also have the 24 hours. They figured it out. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that either of us could like hold up to that, but the point being is they have the same schedule that we do, and they figured it out. So moving on, we've bounced around and touched around to this a little bit. And you even said like, myths and debunking. And I'm sure there's a laundry list, and we don't have to cover them all, but like, what are some of the fitness industry myths, the injury myths, the Western medicine myths? Pick your poison. But like, what are some of the myths that like frustrate you the most that you would like to debunk?
Ooh, this is a big one. So fitness myths. We're a CrossFit gym, and it has a, certain methodology. But once again, any type of fitness is good with me. It's going back to that as people believe that they have to do this type of fitness to obtain this. There is no perfect workout. There is no perfect program. If you're if you want to become a runner, and you're like, well, I have to run all the time, but you don't necessarily like it, it's not going to work.
Yeah, just
you don't necessarily need to go run every day to be a good runner. Whatever the case is, to narrow that question down and to answer it, the biggest pet peeve I have with the fitness industry is them telling you that in order to achieve this, you need to do blank. It doesn't work that way.
Agreed.
Because you're not going to stick with it. And we have, and I can use this as an example because it probably happens in every type of gym, is people will come in and they're like, man, I really love this, and then you're like, wow, they seem to really like it. And then a few months down the road, they're gone. Well, they really loved it because maybe it was just something different for them. And then they got involved with it and realized, hey, I may like a few of these things that we're doing, but I really only like a couple of these things. And I think I'm going to branch out and really focus more on those things. To me, that's not unsuccessful as a business. For even me personally, I think that's successful. Because if I'm ticked off in the fitness industry about trying to sell people on certain things, and then I get mad when that person finds out what they love and goes and does it, then I'm guilty of it. So if I can have a conversation with that person who is with us for a few months, and I'm like, hey, what happened? They're like, well, nothing against you, but I really liked just lifting. So I found a place where I can just go do that all the time. I'm like, they're like, well, it's nothing against you, right? They're quick to, make sure that it was nothing you did or make you feel bad. I'm like, no. You found a love just like I have. Go get it.
Yeah. And I've even appreciated that, like with just seasons of life. Like, I did the bodybuilding thing.
Sure.
And then I came to CrossFit, got my ass kicked by 40 and 50-year-old women, and realized like, oh, maybe my cardio is not good enough. And so then I did branch out from the gym, right? And I went and I prepped and ran a half marathon. Mixed feelings on it, but I came back and then I told you, I was like, Alan, did you change the programming? And you're like, no. And I'm like, I'm actually getting it done in time now. And it took me realizing, like, some people say, I like this a lot, so they go do that. For me, it was like, I really suck at this, so I'm going to go get better at it and come back. And it was fun to see that come together. And a phrase that I tell people that I think resonates directly with this is, I could give you the perfect exercise, the perfect regimen, but if you never do it, it's not going to work. If I give you something 75% effective and you take it every single day, that's going to work. And so if they hate running, but they need to improve their cardio, then just pick something different. And I think that's where coming to an individual like yourself who has that vast knowledge, you may like talk to them for an hour and say like, this gym isn't for you. It's not that you don't fit. It's that it doesn't fit you. It doesn't fit what you want. So go talk to my friend down the street. And like we've even talked about, you've referred people to other coaches around the Wichita area because they're a better fit for that person. And that's the best way to serve humans, is to give them what they need, not what you sell.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer in myself. I want to be genuine. I want to be authentic.
And it comes off well, just if you want
Well,
some
thank
feedback.
you, because it is. I mean, I've had so many personal struggles myself, and I love being old enough now, or especially more comfortable in my skin, is telling people like, listen, believe it or not, I do have a lot of moments where I have low confidence. I have, anxiety that sometimes just freezes me. And then I have all that self-doubt. And they're like, by the way you look. And I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. To be honest, all those things, those depression, anxiety, and low confidence, it's probably the reason why I look the way I do. Because I had to battle those things and try to find a way to battle them, really. And the gym was one of those. And exactly what you said, too, is why would I want to hold on to somebody and tell them like, hey, I know you said you don't necessarily like this, but it's going to work for you. That's like telling me, Alan, hey, you need to calm down. You need to go sit in that room and meditate. I'm like, no, I'm going to fly through that window. So I think it's really powerful if I want to change the fitness community, is to tell them, listen, this guy or gal down the street with this gym can offer you something much better than I can. They're going to remember you for life.
Exactly.
I don't need to remember them because they paid us money. It's the stupidest thing to do.
Yeah.
I want to remember them because, I was just a little bit a part of their journey and was able to give them maybe one step to help themselves out. They won't forget it. I don't forget the people who have helped me. You're one of those. You debunked all the crap that other physicians said that I needed to do, and that was rest. No, that actually made me worse. So, I just want to make sure that the people that have helped me and vice versa, that they know that.
So, one, I appreciate all these things, and I want to take a massive turn in another direction. I've got some random questions that I think will be fun. So, first one, favorite food or snack that you could eat nonstop?
Doritos.
What flavor?
Nacho cheese. There is no other one.
What about spicy nacho?
Man, if I'm just jonesing to just get a little bit frisky, I'll do that.
It's just like
I
a
like
extra
all
flair.
Doritos, but nacho cheese, you open up a bag, it's gone.
Oh, yeah. I think that's one thing that I've learned. Just don't have a bag in the house because it'll be gone in a day or two. The suggested servings is just that, suggested. Okay, so let's go over into favorite supplement style food. So I'm thinking like, what's your favorite shake? What's your favorite bar? What's your favorite, like one of those like protein Pop-Tarts? Like, what's your favorite supplement-y style food?
Oh boy, so this is going to sound really weird, right? I'm in fitness. I should do all these supplements. And I have, right? The protein powders, the creatine, all the different various bars, all the different drinks. For one, I can just eat any type of protein bar. I can drink any type of protein shake. Believe it or not, I don't do those every day. I may have a protein shake once a week if I remember. So really for me, it's just, and this may sound cheesy because if anybody knows me, I'm not the epitome of, meal prepping and nutrition. I've spent a lot of time doing that. I don't necessarily do so much of it now, but I just like meat.
Yeah.
Give me turkey.
Nature's protein
bar.
bar.
give me turkey, give me chicken, give me tuna. So I think that's probably more of my supplement. Okay. I'm just, I'll say I'm lazy. I can have the tub of protein powder. Then I'm like, oh, I got to put that in a cup. I know it may sound weird, but it is. So I'll just go grab a steak and go chew on it.
So let's just dive one step deeper on that. Okay, so what's your favorite Nature's protein, and how do you like to make it?
I'm pretty simple. I'm a tuna and rice guy.
Yeah, that's what you eat every day when I see you eat lunch.
I mean, because I like it. I mean, I really don't at this point in my life force myself to eat these things because they sound healthy. I spent 10 years of eating tuna and green beans every day for lunch, and we won't get into that, but those are one of those things that people are like, oh, I see you eating some of that bad food. I'm like, hold up. I've done this a long time. Just back off a little bit.
Sorry to interrupt. No. Would you agree with the 80-20 rule, though?
I'm probably like a 60-40 now.
Okay, deal. Yep.
But yeah, absolutely. I do agree with the 80-20. There are no absolutes in life other than death.
Yeah. And I would say, to truly echo that, like, I've learned, like, hey, I'm going to snack at night, so I'm going to skip breakfast and just throw a protein shake. That's been my fix. I'm going to eat the best I can 5 days a week for lunch so that I can eat a little bit different at dinner time, right? And so some people think, like, oh, you have to eat good all the time. It's like, no, I eat good most of the time so I can have fun the rest of the time within reason.
Just balance, ultimately. And we've heard that before. Just
for sure.
Balance.
Okay, what's a fun fact about you that most people may not know? Or maybe people do know, but you just love to tell people this random fun fact about yourself.
Oh, a fun fact. There's probably a lot of them. I mean, this is such a great question. I want to make sure that I give a very interesting story. But for one, I'm just a small town guy. I grew up in Victoria, Kansas, which at the time was roughly about 900 people or so, 900 to 1,000. My high school class had like 16 people in it. Moved to Wichita and people were like, I had 300-400. I'm like, I don't understand that. So I'm still the small town kid at heart where I don't know a stranger. I want to just go talk to you, even though people will be like, well, you shouldn't go up and talk to them. I'm like, why not? I'm going to go talk to them. So, and I, in the business side of it too, and I know this might be off the topic, but I think that's helped me a lot with just how I've navigated through life, is having the ability just to connect with people. So the fun fact, Victoria, what else? It was a big kind of like, a farm town, but I wasn't a country kid. I didn't listen to the country music. There's tractors all around the area and trucks, but I just was never into that lifestyle. It wasn't until, I met Laura and married her that she kind of changed some of that for me.
You say that, but there was this one time where I think you were squatting like 500 pounds, and what music was on?
Yeah, there was some Eddie Arnold, some cattle call. Well, that's because I just like to have fun. But other fun facts, I don't know. Let me hurry up and think about this so we can keep the listeners involved. I really don't know. Someone would have to be in here to help me out with that. I would just say, as intimidating as my presence is, I'm still a little small town boy inside.
Absolutely. Okay, so another whiplash amount of change of direction. So we go from fun facts to an observation I've made with clients is many people are either chasing a goal or they're running from and avoiding pain. Which would you say matches you more?
And what were the two again?
So some people are either chasing a goal, so they have high aspirations and they're running towards something. Others have had, we'll say, issues or troubles or struggles in their life that have caused them pain, and so they're running from or avoiding that pain. Which would you say matches you?
Me currently, I would say in the beginning it was running towards those goals because everything was new to me, changing the body, trying out different movements, competing. Now that all those things aren't really goal driven, it's trying to run away from the pain. Because I spent a long time, and a guy that I work with, who's older that I personal train with, he's a physician, and he told me, he's like, Allen, you got a lot of miles on you, because I was expressing to him that I really started to, almost feel bad or scared that maybe I've pushed my body too much because I still have these nagging injuries that seem to be coming up more and more. And, this guy's a physician, knows what he's talking about. And he just said, he's like, Alan, you got a lot of miles. He's like, but with those miles, he really said too, he's like, you have the armor to handle these things. And I just needed to hear that because I come from, a family that, lives a hard life, physical and just go, go, go. And then they start to really decline as they gotten older, and my dad is one of those. My dad was, rock solid and just like me. And he's had to battle so many ailments now, and I don't know what they're attributed from specifically. I know some of those things happen, and I've kind of lived that same life that he has. And so it's starting to get to me, maybe I don't need to do some of those wild and crazy things that I have done, but I don't think I'm running from the pain. I'm just kind of scared to address it sometimes because I don't want to stop. So it's easier to run from it.
I see where you're coming from. And I would say that I feel like that's the getting older part of the brain, right? You're starting to see that. And I love quoting other people. Lane Norton is one of my favorite guys to follow in the fitness industry because he lives and breathes lifting heavy weights, but also has the background with a PhD and tons of research. And one phrase he says, he says, you can either be in pain and not lift weights, or you can lift weights and be in pain. But at the end of the day, like, everybody is going to be in pain throughout their life. And so, like, pick your hard ultimately.
Did he steal that from me?
Maybe.
Because I know damn well, and people can back me up on this. I said, you have two choices in life.
As long as you have the
receipts. You can be in pain and do nothing, or you can be in pain and be active.
Exactly.
One of those is going to work better for you.
And so maybe you need to take your own
I've never heard of the
guy. Okay, so to finish this out, I do want to ask, let's go with two questions. Okay. And then it's the classic, where do people find you and how did they come about talking to you? But first one is, with all the people that are going to be listening, what's one message that you want them to take to heart? What's one thing that you really want them to take away from today's conversation, or just your culmination of time in the industry?
You're better than what you think. And that goes for everybody, whether they're in fitness. I know that's what we're talking about, but you're better than what you think. I think we all have we all have a light inside of us, right? And we feel like it's always on the dimmer. And what can be helpful by seeing people like yourself, or myself included, or others in these industries, is they can help, turn that light on a little bit more for you. And really what I like to tell people, it's not necessarily anything that I did to get you going. I just allowed you to turn on the light and maybe gave you an environment that you felt more comfortable turning that on.
And to flourish.
So everybody has the potential. And when I say these things and people have asked, they're like, how do you always know what to say? It took me a long time to answer that, and I can answer it now because I've been there. And when I talk to that individual, I'm talking into a mirror. I'm giving myself my own pep talk. And it's been so powerful to be able to do that, is to just, let people know that just because I have what you think you want, or I have the look, or I have the job, you can do it too. So let's chat about why that we're stuck right now. Why is that light, so dim? Let's turn it on.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
I love that. I love that a lot. And the other question that I wanted to ask is, if you could change one thing, fix one thing, or add one thing to the medical industry and the frustrations you've had with it, what would you change? What do you think needs fixing?
Obviously, this can't happen overnight, and you touched upon it too, because your practice does it, is having the ability to have more time with the individual. And I get it. I mean, I 100% get it. Doctors are seeing so many people a day. Do you think they want that? No. So when they see somebody, it is like, hey, what brings you here? It's blank, blank, blank. Okay, well, this is what you need to do. See you later. And I know they don't want that, but that's unfortunately the part of the business. So it's really just having more time to get to know them. Because if I come in with a shoulder, well, for one, you need to stop using it. And then let's move on. Here's a medication, or here's some stretches on a piece of paper. And that's unfair, not only to the client, but also to the physician, because they're not able to express what they really can do to help. So I guess it's just having more time. And I don't know how you can do that with such a messed up system.
No, I agree with you. And I would say, to follow up on that and give some tactical stuff to the listeners, is if that's the system that we both agree that is needed, then it's somewhat on the consumer to also demand it. And so if you are frustrated with your doctor, or doctors in general, then go find the ones that are doing what we're talking about. Find the ones that are spending the time. Find the ones that are helping you find the root cause. And go spend your money and time with them so that their businesses can grow. Because I'll tell you what, it's scary as a provider, I apologize, to step outside the system that is known to be a moneymaker, right? Like, oh, I'll just do this. I'll take insurance and, I'll just have patients delivered to me. And it's like, but then you can't treat them like you want. Mm-hmm. And so it's upon the provider to step outside the system and build a better one. But we ask for help from the consumer to support those. Go to the doctors who don't take insurance and are trying to put you first. Go to the PTs, the chiros, the naturopathics, the whatever, and help them bolt up that system, because the more money that you can put into their pockets, not as a profit, but as a business building, the more you can build the better system and make the old one obsolete ultimately.
Absolutely.
To finish out, so Allen Wasinger, where can people find you on the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the other socials? And then if they want to come train with you or they just want to come check out Compelled Fitness and Nutrition, where should they go? What are some handles? What are some websites they can get to?
For me personally, I would love for people just to come to see me.
Okay.
I love meeting new people and talking with them. So obviously Compelled Fitness out here on West Kellogg.
Yeah.
The old Flying Moose antique store. But of course, social media is powerful. Obviously, I'm on Facebook, Allen Wasinger.
Yeah.
Instagram, there's no special handle other than just A.N. Wasinger.
Okay.
But really, use those avenues to, do some research. Once again, social media doesn't tell the story. But, come in and do Compelled. And really, and I mean this, if it's just to get you started and getting started by just walking through the door, you don't have to sign a membership. That's like the last thing I ask you when you come in. I just want to see, what I can do to help you. So sure. I would just encourage people to step in through the door.
Okay. I will put that down in the show notes, guys. And if you're not already, follow me on Instagram, at the doctor. So at THEDOCDIR. And that'll be all for today's podcast of Heal Without Harm. We will see you next time.
Thank you, Clayton. Thank you all.
Thank you.